here at the Med Health Summit at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, and I'm here with the inimitable Diane Bowie of MedTech Innovator. Thanks for being here, Diane.
Hello, excited to be here.
I have to throw Diane under this bus, which is I think of all the people that I know in our ecosystem, you introduced me to at least half of them. I mean, this is one of the greatest communicators and connectors that I know, and you're doing that now in a new position with MedTech Innovator. Still here at this great networking event, part of the community, part of the ecosystem. But tell us a little bit about MedTech Innovator, what the group does, and also about your role with them.
I'm first going to throw that right back
Oh
at
boy,
you
here we
and
go.
say, power networkers among themselves. I think it's really important to connect our ecosystem, and that's why you are here and why I'm here. But let me tell you about MedTech Innovator. I am 6 months into the job, so I'm still pretty new. I'm still drinking from the fire hose. MedTech Innovator is the largest accelerator in MedTech in the world, which is quite impressive. As I said, I'm still enamored. I'm new. And really, they've been around for 10 years. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary. And that means lots of products in market, which in medtech is not trivial.
Yeah.
So 190 products in market, about $6 billion in follow-on funding.
Wow.
1 in 4 companies in medtech fundraising at this moment in time this year are MTI alumni. So really a force to be reckoned with in the industry. And Paul Grand, our CEO, who started this, spun this out 10 years ago out of RCT Ventures, is very well known and very respected in the industry, and that really allows us as a team to open many doors for the startups that we work with.
That's really cool. Tell us more about the model there. So you're incubating these at some level, advising them. There's more services. There's a whole bunch of things that kind of come around in that ecosystem there.
What I personally really appreciate about the model is that we work very closely with a set of really top name brand recognizable strategic partners. So the Johnson & Johnsons and Becton Dickinsons and Olympuses of the world that are deeply involved in recruiting the startups. So because we've been very successful, we get a lot of applications. We get about 1,200 applications per year, and we only have slots for 50 companies. And our partners get deeply involved in the selection process of these companies, and they also get deeply involved in the mentoring of these companies. And it is that mentorship, I think, that money doesn't buy you. But practically, the program itself runs from June through October. So it's a 4-month program. It is a mostly virtual program, bookended by in-person events.
Oh, that's
so
great.
we meet at big conferences. We do our own events at the sidelines of big conferences. And that's when we do our own content, we do our matchmaking and things like that. But it also gives us an opportunity to put our startups on stage as opinion leaders in their respective area of expertise. So you don't just get to have a press release, yay, we made it into this fantastic and very selective accelerator program. We also were on stage at this important conference. So if I had to summarize it, I would say the value proposition is A, 10 years worth of network of alumni, B, really great strategic partnerships, and C, great relationships with conferences that get you in the spotlight.
In the spotlight, and if you've already got those strategic relationships with potential exit companies, I mean, not everyone's going to go there, but nevertheless, you've got those mentoring there, then you sort of know that where you are is a thought-leading place, so that when you go to those conferences, you're in a position to really shine. That's really cool. And you guys are doing, thanks for appearing here as well, you guys are doing webinars. I think it's really cool, though. You told me just a few minutes ago, your webinars have a public aspect and a private aspect to them, which is a perk for the companies that are actually part of your accelerator.
Absolutely. So during the 4 month of the program, we do weekly webinars with thought leaders just around the topics that every medtech startup should at some point encounter, be that reimbursement, be that regulatory, be that be that partnering with VCs or with corporate venture capital, different things that everyone at some point will encounter. But and so that compendium of knowledge is on YouTube and is available. But the public version is, and that we live stream on YouTube, is an hour, and then we do another half an hour with our panelists that is Q&A just for the cohort. And sometimes, especially people in quite prominent positions, will not necessarily say something that could be considered controversial on something that will live on the internet, on YouTube, but are willing to go into a little bit more of a nuanced, or give you numbers, as in how much, when, how, give you slightly more in-depth advice in a family-only type setting. And that's really what it feels like. I think an accelerator cohort really feels like a family, as in we're among ourselves. Let's talk real, let's talk shop here.
Yeah, well, and it sort of shows the value of the content because then they can now engage with it, which they're not going to just do in the public setting. So as you take these companies through, who should be reaching out to you? What are the kinds of companies or entities or individuals that you want to connect with as MedTech Innovator?
I would say any startup in medtech, which I would define largely as medical devices and healthcare IT. And I would say not super early stage, not straight out of a tech transfer office or a napkin drawing. We're talking about companies with teams,
Okay.
often that have made their first steps, sometimes at Series Seed, Series A, and then even all the way to later stage, Series B and C. So we split the 54 companies, for example, that we had in the 2022 cohort into, we call one the accelerator cohort. They get really mentored and get a lot of hands-on work with their mentors. And the showcase companies, those are later stage, really raising that Series B or C, sometimes in market in Europe or in Israel, for example, or in Canada, and really looking to get into the US market by way of getting on stage, getting noticed that way, and the opportunity to connect with some strategics.
Very cool. So not the very earliest stages, but you're still taking seed stage
Absolutely. So
companies.
early, but not earliest.
Yeah, that makes sense. Get a
And in
little
case
bit
of doubt, apply, because what I usually tell people, just like your resume is supposed to get you an interview, not necessarily immediately the job, so does the application ideally get you to a live pitching event. And we invite about 200 startups to one of our live pitching events, where we invite about 60 of our judges from our partners. And so the people you meet at the live pitching event, should you get invited, sometimes that event in and of itself, even if you don't end up part of the cohort, can be really helpful.
Yeah, we've heard from so many that just getting in front of people who are going to evaluate it, it's like,
Right.
wow, that was one of the first major steps for me to be able to go through that. What's coming up in the coming months? What's next up on deck?
2 weeks from now, a lot of people are going to health. We're going to MedTech strategists. They're unfortunately at the same time. If I could split myself, I would, but I'm not going to. We'll have the finals of our value competition at MedTech strategists in San Francisco. So that's where we're going to be next. It's always an opportunity to also connect with the ecosystem, right? It's not just our startups, it's everybody else. And then most likely we'll have a reception at JP Morgan in January.
Awesome.
And then we're planning our events for those pitching sessions where we invite between 20 and 50 companies to meet some of our judges in person.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing all sorts of amazing things, and I'm thankful that you're here today. Just a word about the event we've just seen today.
MedHealth Summit has been amazing for the last couple of years. In my personal event calendar, I put it on the calendar as soon as the date is known, and I show up because really, when you look around, the people in this room are truly the biomedical ecosystem in our state and in Southern Ontario. And that's a force to be reckoned with, but it's also something that we as an ecosystem are still trying to grow. And so the connections, I can catch up with 50 people in one go, which otherwise would take 50 individual Zoom meetings. So running into you here, running into everybody else here, that's why I come here.
Yeah, well, and the fact that you're here means that all those other people got to run into like 50 other people, because that's who Diane Bowie is. She connects people. So thankful to have you here. So good to see you again in person, and all the best. We can't wait to hear about the next steps from MedTech Innovator.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you.